With March slowly dwindling away in the next few days, with April coming over on the horizon next week, I felt like I would show you something that's related to something that's happening this week, called Macintosh. And that has to do with these. These Apple ADB mouses. ADB stands for Apple Desktop Bus. That's this protocol that they used, obviously, for their mouses and keyboards back in the day. If I can zoom in from here, this is what the connector looks like. Looks similar to the S-Video connector. Well, in fact, it is the same type of connector. This was just introduced like a year before S-Video was introduced. So this was from 1986 is when they introduced this connector, and S-Video came a year after this connector was introduced. But anyways, with ADB we got keyboards and mouses with this connector, particularly, this one obviously. So this is the first one that we had. So these Apple mouses are pretty much the ones that my family had when they used to have Mac computers in our house back in the day. Some of them probably from our cousins or relatives, but these are the ones that we have. So starting off with the first one, which is the original Apple Desktop Bus mouse, the ADB mouse that I have here. So this is what the mouse looks like. Simple one button design with the blocky exterior, very angular too. Like I said, it's a one button mouse because they stuck with that philosophy since the original Macintosh. Some people might complain about it, but for pretty much the majority of Mac users back in the day, never had a problem with this one, obviously. I mean, with other PCs like especially those with Unix and Windows, they usually have more than one button, so like 2 or 3 back in the day. But this is what Mac users had back then. This originally came with the 2GS and Apple 2GS in 1986. That was the first computer to introduce Apple Desktop Bus. So, with this design. And then I think about like a few years later, this was included in all other Apple computers, obviously. So it's pretty much the predominant Apple mouse, pretty much, at that time, before the next one will come, which we'll get into that later in this video. And yeah, so here's the Apple mouse. We take a look at the bottom here. So this is Apple Desktop Mouse, family number G5431, made in Taiwan. So there are a couple different variations of this one. Well, mainly from the manufacturer. If it was made in Taiwan or some U.S. and Malaysian some. So this one is family number G5431. So this is the one that came with the Mac SE and Mac 2. I think back in the 80s, the late 80s, probably 87, 88, somewhere around that time. These came with a black trackball, a black rubber ball, obviously on the bottom. So this is back at the time when mouses used to have these little rubber balls inside of them to track movement, obviously. And then there's a later model with the same family number, but made in USA and Malaysia, and they have differences. So for this part, it has a different design, and it has a gray trackball, mouse, rubber ball. So with this one, so to clean up your mouse balls, you just had to do it like this. This one takes a little bit of force to get out, but once you get it out, it's there. So here's the rubber ball. Obviously, you can easily clean that up if you want to. Roll around. Okay, once you have it cleaned up, put it in like so, and then put it back like this. It's always quite satisfying to like take this out, take the ball out, clean it, put it back in, and then lock it up like that. So, I mean, that was the charm of these old mices. Oh, and especially the clicking sound. They have a distinct clicking sound. That was some button clicking ASMR for you guys from this ADB mouse, obviously the first one. But oh, before I get to the next one, I'm talking about this mouse in particular, you know, that my family had, obviously. I think this mouse came with our Mac Classic, the Macintosh Classic that came in 1991. That is that one Mac computer that I am most familiar with in terms of vintage Macs, obviously, because we used to have one in the house, but it was discarded a long time ago, sometime in the late 2000s, early 2010s, because we don't have it anymore. But we still have the mouse for it, so I'm grateful for that. You know, my father actually kept this, you know, in the bag, and when he moved to the other room, he offered to let me have this, obviously, because he wasn't needing it anymore. So yeah, I'm glad that I'm keeping it, and I will try my best to do my best to preserve this as, you know, as physically as possible, obviously, because they don't make these anymore. I mean, granted, they're not being produced, but like, it's still, you know, a neat piece of Apple history and collection that have as far as vintage Mac goes. But now moving on to the next one. 1993 brought us this. This is the Apple Desktop Bus Mouse 2. So this has so this one ditched the blocky exterior of this first ADB mouse in favor of a more smoother design, obviously. So this is what we got. So the Apple logo is down there, whereas on this one it's on like the bottom left, you know, from holding it like this position. And having it the curved design like this makes the mouse more comfortable to hold than this one, obviously. I mean, to me, both are kind of comfortable in their own ways, but this one plenty comfortable for most people. So yeah, it still uses a, you know, ball type tracking mechanism, as with all other mouses produced at this time. So family number M2706. So this is what they called, so this color is called Platinum, obviously. Apple Platinum, and all these colors. There's a gray one of this, there's a gray model of this one, you know, for power books of that era. And they also made a black version of this mouse, which is the first black Apple mouse, obviously. It was for the Mac TV, obviously. You know, I know for sure one of the YouTubers I watch has a Mac TV that also included a black version of this mouse. If you can pretty much know where I'm getting that from. So, and because this has the design is pretty much like, you know, what Apple pretty much intends as the ideal shape of the mouse as it's known, several other manufacturers started adopting this, you know, elliptical smooth design, obviously, for their mouses too, whether it be Unix or Windows. So, so like, here's a Logitech compact mouse that's released after this mouse was released, and you can see, while it is designed differently, it does use like a elliptical shape almost. So I mean, this one has 2 button mouses and a scroll wheel, and this one only has 1 button, but hey, it's the differences between Macs and PCs and whatnot, but well, not going down to that rabbit hole, obviously. Can't forget this. I mean, this uses an elliptical design. You know, it's wireless too, but this is actually the mouse that I'm using for my main PC, but yeah. Don't have to divulge into that topic, but this is the mouse that was used in all other Mac computers from its introduction in 1993 up until the Apple USB hockey puck mouse was introduced for the iMac in 1998. So this is pretty much one of the longest running mouses that they had at the time, obviously. It does still use ADB, obviously, as you can see right here with this connector. And this came from one of our relatives or cousins, a Mac computer that they had at the time. So this is not from our family when we had it, but we just kind of had it, borrowed it in our possession or some. It was for one of those Mac computers that our cousins and relatives had back in the day. It was probably some type of a Power Macintosh or Performa computer of some sort, because the Mac lineup back in the 90s before the iMac was kind of like it's pretty much like divulged too much. Obviously, it's like fragmentation of models. So you got Performa, Power Macintosh, then you got what, LC, a Mac 2, whatnot. So there are a plethora of models, sometimes even using the same case designs, obviously. I think this came with the Performa 6400 or something like that, or the Power Macintosh 9600, 6500, 8600. I'm not too sure, because there was too many models that had this mouse. But rest assured, this is the mouse that came with all Mac computers from within that time frame until the introduction of the iMac in 1998, when they switched over to USB. So this was truly the last Apple mouse to use this ADB connector, obviously. If I can get my camera to focus, there we go. So, yeah. Not much to say about these mices. Although, about these ones that I have on here, before I had them in my possession, these were really dirty. So these mouses didn't look as good as they were before I cleaned them up. So for instance, this one has like tape like around this section. Obviously, there's like that duct tape taped over it, and then there's like clear tape taped all over it. And since that got aged like probably more than 20-30 years, obviously, when I took it out, it looked really disgusting, obviously. I mean, when I took it out, that didn't really feel good, obviously. It was very dirty. But I gave these things good TLC, obviously. I mean, just removing all that dust and such and grime off of these mouses as best as I can. And so that's why they're looking, pretty much as good as it is, obviously. In fact, when I took the tape off on this thing, the wire here doesn't really look that bad, to be honest. It just looks clean. I don't know why they had it taped up in this section, obviously, back then, but I'm not too sure. Either way, yeah, all these mices are clean, and these mices also work, but they probably still work, but I don't have a vintage Mac or something like that in my collection to test this on, obviously. But it's good to have these in the collection, just to show you guys that I have these. Back when my family used to have Mac computers back in the day. Both have very distinctive clicking sounds, than all the other ones that I have. Like just listen to them. They're just so fun to kind of like mess around, obviously. Just getting the feel of these old Apple mices to me, even though I never really used an old Mac, before the iMac, because I did use the iMac, obviously, back when I was in the second grade, obviously, back in the late 2000s. But these are the Apple mices that we have in a collection for Apple Desktop Bus protocol, obviously. But yeah, that's all I really had to say about in this video. Obviously, just me showcasing these two Apple Macs I have in my mini Apple collection, obviously, because these are really the only two items that I have now in my possession, given down to me from my father, obviously. But yeah, that's it. Thank you guys all watching for this relatively quick video. I know it's not pretty much that quick. I mean, we're only about like 16 minutes now in the recording, but yeah, that's all I really have to say about in this video. There's nothing really much, but yeah, that's my basically my contribution to Macintosh, obviously, since it's already going to be over by the time April comes. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching this video, and I hope to see you on the next one. See ya.